of what says on top here, page Shin Gimel. Sorry. We're in the bottom of Shin Beis, the last line, which says, V'lochein shayach lePurim. But what I want you also to do now is to open up the English letter. I want to go over one paragraph before in the English side.
At the Shin, whatever it is, at page 344. No?
Okay, but right now, could you open up the English letter too, please?
That's something else I'm learning with Rabbi Farrell. Okay, I got you. Shin Gimel.
Shin Gimel, above note 15, the two paragraphs above, which says Haman had 208 sons. You have that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Rabbi Levi says Haman had 208 sons, which correspond to the number in Virov, Vav Resh Beis, is 208, without the Vav. In other words, as noted by our sages, that's what I want to look at. Note 16. Everyone look at note 16. It's an important note. This is a Megillah. It's a Gemara Megillah 15b. The Gemara debates. You understand? You with me? You have it?
I'm looking at the English and I'm trying to find note 16.
Okay, wait. I'll wait a minute. Note 16 in the English, please.
But I don't know where it is because when I got to read the idea before cup, that's the lowest thing I have over there.
Just find the number 16 on the page. That's where we're at. Okay. So it says, see Megillah 15b. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara debates the number of Haman's sons. How many kids did this guy have? Rami Bar Abba took the position that there were 208 sons, based on the verse in the Megillah Esther, where Haman recounted to his friends the glory of his wealth and of his many sons. And the words in the Megillah, Moshe, are V'roiv banov, many sons, roiv. So we see Vav, it's spelled with Vav Reish Beis, which equals 208. The Gemara responded by noting that the value of V'roiv is actually 214. Right? Because there's a middle Vav, not just one Vav before the Reish. There's a Vav between the Reish and the Beis, with making the Gematria 214, not 208. So we have an argument in the Gemara. The reason for this argument is that when the word is written without the vowels, the extra Vav is needed to indicate proper pronunciation. In other words, you shouldn't pronounce it Virav, but you should pronounce it Virov. So if there's no vowels, you must have the Vav to make it pronounced Virov. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak pointed out that in the actual text of the Megillah, the extra Vav is not there. Thus, when Rabbi Yitzchak indicates that the number of Haman's sons is 208, it corresponds to V'roiv without the extra Vav. He's referring to the explanation in the Gemara. What's the explanation? That in the Megillah, it's Vav Reish Beis, and it's pronounced Virov, and equals 208. When the Gemara says it's with a Vav and it equals 214, that's when you need to have. That's when you don't have vowels. But if you have vowels, that's when you right. But if you have vowels, it's Virov 208. I just wanted to. So Rabbi Yitzchak, when you read and now go back to the text, Haman had 208 sons, which corresponds to the number in Virov, without the Vav, as noted by our sages. He's referring to this Gemara. And why was this important? Because he taught us in the letter that Avram is the chesed of Kedusha, opposite of Haman, who is negative. Yitzchak is the Gvura of Kedusha, of holiness, opposite of Haman's sons. This is what he said in the previous paragraph. Let's continue now the second line in the previous paragraph at the end. Similarly, in the text of the Haggadah, it reads, Arbe Azaroi ve'eten lo yis Yitzchak. I will increase Abraham's children and give him Isaac. As the Arizal explains. So in other words, Arbe, how much does Arbe equal? Avi? Arbe is how much? Avi?
I hear you, but I'm not. Arba is...
Reish is 200, Hey is 5, Aleph is 1, Beis is 2, 208. Hashem says to Avram, I will increase your children, and he uses the word Arba, which means 208, and I give you Yitzchak, because Yitzchak equals 208. You hear that? Isn't that beautiful? For Arba equals to, I will increase your children, and who am I going to give you in addition to Yeshua? I'm going to give you Yitzchak. What's the gematria of the word increase in Hebrew? Arba, 208. How am I going to increase your children through Yitzchak? What's Yitzchak's gematria? 208. You got it? And this 208 that Hashem gives Avram, Yitzchak, is the antidote to fight the 208 sons of Haman. And that is why what the Rebbe Levi is saying here is, Avram is the antidote to Haman, and Yitzchak is the antidote to the children, the 208 children. Let's go to the next paragraph now. Therefore, this is connected to Purim, when Rabbi and Reb Zera had the Purim meal together, and Rabbi slew Reb Zera, which corresponds to the Akedah, right? Just like Avram was going to bound Yitzchak, and he was going to bring him as a carbon, this is what Rabbi wanted to do with Reb Zera. And an account of this was the downfall of Haman and his sons. The youngest son of Haman was, my favorite, Vayezasa. When people would make fun of my name in yeshiva, they would say, you're a Vayezasa, because Dalphine is one of the 10 sons. By the way, technically, I always would tell people who made this joke with me, I said, you got it wrong. My name is Dalphine with a Yud. And the Megillah says Dalphine with a Vav. You got the wrong guy. But anyway, the other joke in the community is that you're a Vayezasa. Vayezasa would mean like you're a tail, you're like a nothing, So it says Vayezasa was out of the 10 kids, I don't know, he says the youngest, who is the end of the downfall, and he is like the kitnos, because, like, remember we learned the Gemara in Bava Metzia, the beginning of the letter, when you what do you have to pay day laborers? Do you have to give them legumes and bread, or bread made out of legumes? And the Gemara says, there's a vav. The vav meaning not just bread made out of legumes, you have to give him bread and legumes to people who are working for you. Feed them well. Take care. Make sure you give them pizza and falafel. You have people working for you. Cleaners. Okay? Yonis is showing me his pizza. Very good. So, let's go back to the letter. The youngest son of Haman was Vayezasa, who is the end of the downfall, and he's like Kitnius because we extend the Vav in his name as well as the Vav in Vikitnius, as it's written in explanation of Mardaya de Liboiris, which means an ore made of cypress wood. So what the Rebbe's father is saying is that it says Vayizasa. Moshe Vayizasa begins with a Vav. Just as the Vav in Vikitnius. Which is meaning represented by the ore made of cypress wood. This is the opposite of Reb Zeira. Now remember, who's sitting at the table here? Who's sitting at the table at the Suda? Who? Rabbi and Reb Zeira. How do you spell Zeira, Yonason? Zayin, Yud, Reish, Ayin. What does that mean? Go to the next page. Zeira means small. And Reb Zeira was called shorty. In Hebrew, katina, or in Aramaic, katina. Look at note 20, very interesting note. Everyone have note 20 in the Gemara?
Rabbi Dolphin.
Yes.
I'm showing you a tikkun about Sofer writes in Megillah Esther. I don't know if everybody remembers that when the Sofer writes the name Vaizasa, the vav is large. It extends down. It's a large vav.
Right. Thank you for showing it. Right, Moshe. Right. Very good. Just like the ore.
Yeah.
This is why we have a Sefer. Gavaldik. Thank you, Sefer, for helping us, clarifying. Now, so we go back to the name Ze'era, right? Rabbi Ze'era is sitting together with Rabbi. They're having a Purim Suda. What's the name Ze'era mean? Small. The Gemara calls this rabbi shorty. In Aramaic, katina. In Hebrew, katan. Why? Why was he called shorty? So there's a Gemara, note number 20. Look at note number 20. It's another Gemara in Bava Metzia. And also brought in Sanhedrin.
How you open the box?
It is explained that Rav Zeira was known as the short one with singed legs. Why did he have singed legs? Let's go further. Rav Zeira ascended from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, and at the time he would fast 100 fasts, so he would forget the Babylonian method of studying Gemara so as not to impede his ability to adapt to the style of learning in Eretz Yisrael. Now you see why, Moshe, I'm not there yet? Before I come to live in Eretz Yisrael, I have to go through a transformation. I haven't done it even at the age of 60. I'm still stuck in America. When you come to Eretz Yisrael, you have to forget Chutz La'aretz. You have to, and boy, do you forget it when you have a little apartment and you have everything that you have in Eretz Yisrael. Whether you like it or not, and the bureaucracy, and I'm paying 4 times the price for Pepto-Bismol as I did on Rehov Dolev when I needed Pepto-Bismol once that I wanted to buy it in that store that Davos Reit Kodesh, and my eyes popped out. 20 pills for the price I can get, 4 times the price of what it cost in a drugstore here. But that's Eretz Yisrael. Eretz HaKodesh. Oh, Reb Zeira knew that his learning of Gemara, Talmud Bavli, Avi, the Machashakim Shoshevani, it says, the Babylonian Talmud is questions and answers and debates and back and forth. You're getting stuck in darkness. You're sitting in darkness. The give and take. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, it's all light. So he comes to Eretz Yisrael and he starts learning what's called Talmud Yerushalmi. He says, if I will approach Yerushalmi with what I learned in Bavel, I'll never get it. Because I'll question, I'll argue, I'll say wrong, right. When it comes to Yerushalmi, it's Yashar. It's Yerushalom, Sholem. Just go with the flow. You're in Eretz HaKodesh. That's what it means. So therefore, you know what he did? He fasted 100 fasts to break the rhythm, to become a new person. Let's continue in the paragraph. He also fasted 100 fasts to make sure that Rabbi Elazar would not die during Reb Zera's lifetime, and a third 100 fasts, another 100 fasts, so that the fire of Gehenna would not affect him. Boy, he was into fasting. Every 30 days, he would examine himself to make sure he was still at the exalted level. How did he do this? He tested himself by igniting an oven, climbing in, and sitting inside. And the Gemara says the fire did not affect him, Yonason. One day, the sages gave him the evil eye, the ayin hara. They were jealous of him. Wouldn't you be jealous if someone says, I can sit in the oven and not be burnt? And because they were jealous of him, guess what happened? His legs became singed in the fire. From then on, he was referred to as the short one, the shorty, and singed legs. But it's just so interesting how a man is called Ze'era. And the Rebbe's father, the Rebbe took it from him, they were into names. I spoke last night about mitzvah. Okay? So let's go back to the text now. So that's why Reb Zera, who's called Katina, shorty. Yonason, mute yourself. Mute, please. So Reb Zera, who's called Katina, is standing there, is sitting there. It's also known that Rabbi was a successful splitter of wood. As in the case of Avram, about whom the Torah writes that he split the wood for the offering for Isaac. And so too Rav Yosef would split wood, as we see that the two of them, Rabbi and Rav Yosef, would split the wood Note 22. Note 22 is a Gemara in Shabbos, where this is explained that it mentions that Rav Zera would kindle the fire by lighting a small piece of kindling used to start the wood fire for Shabbat, for Shabbos. Back to the text. Because both of them represent mourning. In other words, here is the question. Why were Rabba and Reb Yosef successful successful in splintering the wood? Because they represent mourning, boker, which was great, and the mourning of Yosef, which is great. In other words, it says the mourning is great, meaning the mourning has the ability to take wood and split it. Next paragraph, let me just read a little bit and explain. That's what's written, and the priest shall add wood to the altar every morning. Baboker, baboker. It says twice the word boker. One for Avram and one for Yosef. So Avram and Yosef correspond to Rabba and Reb Yosef, and they're the ones who split the wood. So why does he mention this? Because Reb Zera was the one that used the split wood to put into his oven for Shabbos. And the Rebbe's father is going to say this is the connection between Shabbos and Purim, which this year is happening. The light that you get and the warmth that you get from the oven through the wood that ignites the fire was done by Rabbi and Reb Yosef and their student out of this, Reb Zera, who is the shorty. He uses it. In other words, there is a very interesting flow here. That chesed is so successful that it takes the wood and makes it possible for shorty, for Ze'era, who has humility, to ignite the Shabbos. So the idea is that in order for us to have a warm Shabbos, and Moshe, you mentioned it's the end of the period of your wife's father, your father-in-law's mourning period. How do you end it with? Think about it. You're ending it with Shabbos. And Shabbos, in addition to everything about Shabbos that we know, but in this case, it's Shabbos Purim. Purim is It's not Shabbos, but it's Shushan Purim, and it's coming as a result of Purim. So the splitting of the wood on Erev Shabbos, making the wood light the oven for warmth on Shabbos, comes from Purim. So the energy of this Shabbos is a Purimized, like we have the word winterized, we have a Purimized Shabbos. Now, you're laughing, yeah? You like the drasha? I mean, it's a part of my own drasha, part of Rabbi Levi's drasha. Anyway, any questions before we go further? Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, just to go back to the concept of linking the wood, making the Shabbos warm. Can we I'm sorry, I'm not quite.
Okay.
Didn't quite get it.
Okay.
Couldn't quite get it.
Who was sitting at this Purim meal? What were the names of the rabbis?
Rabbi
and
Zera.
Yeah. What does Rabba mean? Large. Rab.
Large.
What does Ze'era mean? Small.
Small.
Okay. The Gemara says that Rabba and Reb Yosef split wood, and Reb Zera would use that wood to light his oven for Shabbos.
This is the Gemara that we're speaking about right now. This is the Gemara that's in
Bava Metzia, note 20. But note 20 gives you two places it's in. Bava Metzia 85a and Sanhedrin 37a. And the entire Gemara is there, so you could reread it later. You got it?
Yeah, but what about note 22?
Oh, and note 22 too. Good. And note 22 is I take that back. Note 20 explains why he was called Katina. Right? Because he was short,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With singed legs. So note 20, those Gemaras explain why it was called Katina. Note 22, which is from Shabbos 119a, there it explains that Rab Zera, who happens to be the rabbi who used the wood for kindling to start the wood for Shabbos. So you're right, it's two different Gemaras. You're right, good. But Reb Levi Yitzchak is bringing the Gemaras together in concept. He's saying we find that he's called Shorty, Katina. We find that he used wood, and we find also that the ones who split wood were Rabbi and Reb Yosef. And now we know from a Gemara Megillah that we learned in the beginning, right? Page 7.1. This essay was based on a Gemara in Megillah, folio 7, page 7a, I believe, right? Okay, let me find it for yourself so you could note it. Look back at 7b, note number 2. Note number 2. Okay?
Yeah.
So the entire essay, Moshe, is based on note Megillah 7b. Rabbi Yosef, they sat together, come Rabbi v'shachli Reb Zera. Look up the Gemara, there's some more details, but it's all there. And from there, the Rebbe's father, says, hey, you and I have discussed it, I saw you writing, and on, the whole discussion. Now we're at a point where he says, what's the significance of them sitting together? Well, you can say it's Purim, and he's the student of Rabbi, whatever, but the Rebbe says there's much more than that. It's because Rabbi was trying to transform Reb Zera. In terms of what he says here, Chesed is looking to transform Gevura. And remember the other Gemara we learned earlier that he cited, that Reb Zera never smiled. That Gemara blows me away. It's hard to imagine a rabbi of his magnitude would not smile. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak explains that his not smiling was not negative, it was because he was Gevura. The definition of Gevura is not smiling. Okay? it's very important. It sounds like a light remark, but it's a very important insight, especially in continuation of our discussions of Rosh Hashanah, and at that time people come to shul and cry and all that. There are certain people by nature, they're criers. They're serious. You're not going to change them, as we discussed. You're not going to change them. But Rabbi did seek to change Reb Zera. And he said, the way I'm going to change you is I'm going to give you a lot to drink, and then I'm going to slaughter you. I'm going to slaughter your negativity. I'm going to slaughter your seriousness. I'm going to get you to laugh. Yeah, but what's going on? What's going on? It's not a drinking party. It's not a killing party. So the Rebbe's father explains that Rabbi gave Reb Zera tools to uplift him and let him and have him leave his non-smiling gevura attitude. We're at the point now in the essay where he says one of those activities was the usage of wood for warming up the oven for Shabbos. In other words, this he doesn't say, but I would surmise what he's saying is like this: that if not for Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef splitting the wood into small pieces so that Reb Zera can then put it into the oven, he wouldn't have fire for Shabbos. You know why? He would remain non-smiling and negative and serious. So here it is. This Shabbos in your family, just, it's a serious, right? It's a solemn day. You just said right? Purim comes and seeks to transform that through resurrection of the dead, the returning of your father-in-law, and Mashiach's arrival.
Amen.
So that's what the Rabbah sought to do with this Reb Zera. Now you follow the flow? Good. Now I want you to skip to a paragraph where it says this is also the final name in the Ana B'Koach. You got a lot of people there in Eretz Yisrael are into Ana B'Koach. Ana B'Koach, the breast liver, Ana B'Koach. What's the last line of Ana B'Koach? Take your sitters out and give a look. Avi, what's the last line? Can't hear you. Avi, can't hear you. What's the last line? What? The line before. Shabbatenu, Kabel, right? Right. So he says this is the final name in the Ana B'Koach, which is Shin Kuf Vav Tzadik Yud Tuf. If you take it out, you'll see. Which has the same number as Satosi. You know what Satosi is? The small sticks that Reb Zera would kindle the fire with, the Gemara calls Satosi. The numerical equivalent of Satosi is the same as the last line of Ana B'Koach. And this is okay. And what is this idea? This is the idea of a fire. A fire. Okay, now I want you to go back now to the Hebrew letter for the last 10 minutes of the shir. I want to read part of what we just said in the Hebrew so you have it, okay? So we're now on the bottom of page Shin Beis. We're going into the Hebrew text of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. The last line. V'lochein Shayach lePurim, therefore, this is associated with Purim, Shirabba v'Reb Zera Yasa Hasuda Ba'adodi, that both made a meal together. V'sheyishchait Rabba es Reb Zera, and for Rabba to be the one to slaughter Reb Zera. Top of next page, Shin Gimel, 303, which is Shin Gimel. You might have a different page number. Anyway, Al derech ha'akeda, similarly to the Akeda where Avram brought Yitzchak as a sacrifice. And through Rabbah sitting with Reb Zera, and through Avram, wanting to bring Yitzchak as an Akedah, because Hashem wanted that, who mapolos Haman uvanov. It's the downfall of Haman and his kids. And the youngest of Haman's sons, the Haman hu Vayazosa, Sheboy hu Hagmar, Vayazosa is the completion of the mapolosam of their downfall. Number 10, down the tubes, down the drain. And this is like the legumes that we mentioned in the previous Gemara. This is what Moshe the Sofer said. That's you have to drag down, extend the vav of Vayazasa. And ulevav the kitnius, not just bread made out of legumes, kitnius. But you have to give the day laborer bread and legumes. So we emphasize the vav. As I noted in my notes of Mordaya de Livros, the ore of the cyper wood. Hu alumas de Rabzeira de Gedusha. The Vayazosa, the vav of Vayazosa, is the antidote of the holy Reb Zeira. Sheshmoi Zeira. Zeira is associated with Zeira, Katan, small. V'nikra, and the Gemara calls him Katina, shorty, Katina. Ubefedish, ubepedek kol kisvei, and in Tractate Shabbos, the chapter that begins with kol kitvei, sheraba matzlach tzivi. This is the Aramaic for Rabba, split wood. Hu al derech vayevake atze oilad Avram. It's similar to Avram splitting wood. Kedei shlo yeh ba'etz teila. A worm. Why did Avram split the wood? He didn't want any worms. He wanted good wood. Abi gitatz ana bechoach gedulas yemincha tatir srura. Aleph Beis Gimel Yud Tov Tzadik is from the ana bekoach. Mashbiras chesed mishviras chesed etol. Okay, we're skipping that after the parentheses. V'chein Rav Yosef hoyematzlech. There's another Gemara. Rav Yosef, not only Rabbi, hoyematzlech tzivi. He also split woods. So we have two splitters of wood who cut wood. Kedisa Sham, as it says over there in the Tractate Shabbos, right? V'hainu sheshneim yachad, both together. Hoyematzlichi tzivi. They split wood. Why? Because both Rabba and Rabbi Yosef are considered the level of mourning. Boker de Avram, Rabba, the morning of Avram. But it says Vayashkim Avram baboker. We say it every morning. Avram rose early morning. That's a reference to Rabba. Uboker de Yosef, and there's a pasuk by Joseph in the Torah, which represents Reb Yosef. Ayin Bezorah gives a reference to the Zohar. Next line, and this is also the verse Ubir Olea Kohen, when it speaks about the Kohen bringing sacrifices, he should burn on the altar wood, eitzim, baboker. Each morning. But why does it say Avi twice boker? Train boker. 2 mornings. Because one represents boker de Avram, the morning of Abraham, of Avram, and one represents boker de Yosef. Avi, you want to say something? No?
You
Okay.
asked the question.
Yes.
Answer it.
Okay.
The boker of Yosef.
Boker of Yosef, right. That's why it says that the Kohen, Uvir. Moshe, you familiar? We say it in the morning as well. Uvir olea Kohen. The Kohen, we're talking about the Atzei Maracha. When you prepare, right, you have to the wood for the burning of the sacrifices. So over there it says, Ubir oleha kohen, the kohen shall burn eitzim baboker. Why twice boker? Once. No, it says morning. So the Rebbe's father says, why? Because there's two ideas in boker. There's the boker of Rabbah and there's the boker of Yosef. The boker...
What's the boker of Yosef?
I don't remember the verse. I'll let you do the homework, but there's a pasuk by Yosef. Let me see. Does he say it here in the English? I don't think it does. I looked for it. I don't remember, but there is a pasuk. We'll have to... Okay?
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out. You check it out. I'll check it out, and hopefully we'll be checked out. Let's continue. Okay, we'll skip the next line. Now, after the parentheses, everyone skip the next line and a half after the parentheses. Zeu sheshneim yachad. That's why both together, Avram, Rabbi, and Rabbi Yosef would hayamatzlichit tzivi. They cut the wood. V'hoz Rab Zera shehu zeira, and then Rab Zera, who's the small guy, the shorty cotton, mitzatzes situtzi b'ha'etzim. He lit with these splinter pieces of wood. He lit his oven. Of whose wood? Shebaku Rabba v'Rab Yosef. So in other words, Rabba and Rab Yosef provided the wood splinters for Rab Zera to use to light his oven. And he says that's V'hu Shema Achra in the Onem B'Koyach. That's the last name of Onem B'Koyach, Shin Kuf Vav Tzadik Yutov, which equals Situsi. We're going to leave that at that. Now I want you to skip to 2 lines from the end of the paragraph. The Shayach Kol Zeh Shabbos. Moshe, I want you to see this, and I want you to share it with your wife and family. Very important. The Shabbos. The Shayach Kol Zeh Shabbos. All of this is relevant to Shabbos. Ki Kodim Kabbalah Shabbos. Because before Kabbalah Shabbos, what do? We say Ona B'Koyach. And Ona B'Koyach is like the wood that ignites the fire. So that's why it's important to understand when we say the Ona B'Koach. Before Kabbalah Shabbos, in order to be Makabel Shabbos, in order to receive Shabbos properly, you need to have this fire coming from Ona B'Koach. And the Rebbe's father concludes, yes, what?
Can we add to this the thought that that's why before Shabbat itself comes in, that the wife kindles the light, which is light and warmth?
We could add that, even though it doesn't say it, but it makes sense. Yes, very good. Very good. And just to conclude the letter, the last few words, the last line, V'yesh od harbe malaharach b'zeh. The Rebbe's father writes to his son, there's much more that we can say about this. Toda l'keil. Thank the Lord, thank Hashem. Ve'ein kan mokom laharich. But here is not the place to elaborate. Rabbi Sai, we finished this section on Purim, Baruch Hashem. Tomorrow there will not be shir because of various reasons, davening and Torah and appointments, whatever. So please forgive me. We'll come back, I guess Monday, right? Sunday, you guys are still celebrating, right? Are you celebrating or not?
No.
No?
In Beit Shemesh, no.
Okay, so then we'll study Sunday, in Beit Hashem. But, if you guys find that you're going to be busy on Sunday, let me know. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you bring
It's a little Isruchag, but...
Okay.
This year...
The Iker is... the Rebbe always said, the Rebbe always emphasized in such a kfiyas that Purim is associated with Shabbos. So Moshe, I don't want to have any sorrow. I want to have Simcha Shabbos. That's the Lubavitch attitude. Shabbos is not a time for mourning. That's a halacha. Shabbos is a time for Simcha. And a Shabbos like this... What? Yes, thank you. Yeah. And Shabbos like this that follows Purim, it's and as we learned in the letter here, the idea, I mean, I think that you can even work with the idea and to talk to the family and people about it, to take that the whole idea of Purim is transforming the negative to positive. V'napochu. We're going to read in the Megillah. V'napochu. Topsy-turvy, just the opposite. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole idea. And a person should be mekayim the mitzvah vadla yada in a way that's normal, not to make a chilul Hashem in any way, shape, or form. You could say enough l'chaim till you fall asleep, according to one day, you fulfill your obligation. The point is to come to a place where you vacate what you've. It's one day a year. It's like throughout the year we're operating in the regular mode. The whole idea of Purim is transcending. That's what you want to accomplish. That's it. You know, if a person doesn't need alcohol for that, great. If he needs a little brumfin, a little l'chaim, fine. It's in Chabad, you should know, it's a big mistake. In the real Chabad, ad lo yada means to reach a height of relating to Hashem on the highest level. And you see by the Rebbe, he was fabraying for 4 to 6 hours. And even times when he took a lot of l'chaim, and he told people to say l'chaim, and it was a very animated farbrengen. Look at all the clips that are now available. It's very freilich the farbrengen, but it didn't become stupidity. My teacher, Rabbi Yoel Khan, always says like this: stupidity, leave for Tisha B'Av, and holiness, leave for Purim. If you want to make a fool out of yourself and the day, do it for Tisha B'Av. But Purim is very holy, and it's not a day to become cuckoo and crazy. I love that saying that he shares it because, you know, it's like, that wasn't the way Lubavitchers 50, 60 years ago celebrated Purim. It wasn't. They were happy, or freilach. They sat down the Suda, they said l'chaim, they said a second l'chaim, a third l'chaim. But it was with Kedusha, you know what I'm saying? Have a great Shabbos to everyone. Only Psuras Toivas, only Simchas. Stay in touch. If you need anything, let me know. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Freilich
and Purim to everybody. Gotta go. Bye-bye. Sei gesund. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Mom.